Hello everyone, Kurt over here and welcome back to another episode from Whole Labs. Today we're continuing on with our counters to the First Master Dagger plays. And this one today we're working on, it's not the ligador, it is where we have the crossing where I grab the wrist and I'm going to grab the elbow and snap backwards. We're also going to be, now that I have Connor working with me directly on these types of techniques here, we're going to take this opportunity to also kind of give maybe some insight to what may or may not be happening here. Why am I going for the arm? Why am I doing other things? And remember, as I've said in other videos and episodes, it could very possibly be that why do we have so many varieties for doing First Master Dagger, or in general, Dagger in general, Dagger in general. One size does not fit all. And even though, I think I've said before, even though Niccolo d'Este may have been a large person, that doesn't mean that they were not a smaller person to somebody else. And that being able to teach how to work with different things in different variety is a huge key point to being able to adapt to what type of situation you have here. One of the big things that Fiore says in his manuscript is, first thing you have to do is you have to look at your opponent and you have to assess immediately what they're dealing with right here. That's a huge thing. And I don't know how much that's being talked about in the community. I don't know how much this is a factor. But again, this all ties to the concept of avvisamento, right? And that concept of avvisamento, what am I dealing with right here? And how am I going to have to apply a tactic, and so on and so forth. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit today. But anyway, with that being the case here, let's kick into the technique and see how it's countered. Okay, so we're kicking it off this week here, again, looking at what happens with grabbing for the arm here, what type of situations we may be setting up here, which constitutes us grabbing the arm of an opponent, and what this thing actually may or may not be doing. And then also the counter to this thing, which something I say in class, and I've heard other people say this, is, what's Fiore's answer to violence? More violence, and effective violence, I would actually say. So in this case right here, what Connor is going to do here is, again, it's the same First Master play. The dagger shot comes in here. I've covered offline. Now, a big thing about this right here, the image, you see this guy with his hands like this. So I no longer have my hand up, right? And this could be for several different factors, right? We don't know. And again, like I said before, whatever the size of the person is, this manuscript wasn't written for a one-size-fits-all. It was made to, he states it very clearly in his opening, assess your opponent. So again, some people that we may be facing against, they may be small to me, but maybe large to others. And that's a huge factor right here, especially if you're trying to if you're giving an effective fighting system to either a person like Niccolo or his retainers to protect him in some form or fashion. It's important to have the mentality of looking at an opponent, not just doing something out there I'm trying to make the thing work in the book, and now you're dead. So again, we don't necessarily know what's happening here. So first thing comes up here, he comes with that shot, and we come across here as I grab the arm, and I'm in this position. The purpose of this technique for me, in my opinion, is to rip and wrench this down. And you can already tell, because my hand is cupped in here, I've shot across this way, I've hit her as hard as I can, and now I'm grabbing, and now I'm pulling this down. You can already see his structure shift. In fact, actually, why don't you step over here real fast? So his back he's going to be coming at me right here. That's good. Just to see, by me pulling, you can see how much this already contends against his body. And that's the whole thing. Just all we're doing here is snap. And if I do a full turn of my hips, covering up, boom, here, and I'm not actually going to do it, I just let it go, that's going to devastate that shoulder. Okay? So I've effectively struck it in, I've broken his arm, dislocated it, bound on it, and now I can work it for other things, right? So for this shot right here, again, why might this be the case? He's a bigger guy. I don't trust my ligadura. He steps out. Maybe he's got his considerations. I pop right here, and now I'm going to have to fight against this. Or it could be, cover comes in, he starts to yank it away from me, so I pull him back into me, and I break his arm, okay? Lots of different effects right here, and again, we've talked about that already, all about the lines and how we're going from this. And now we're going to talk about what we can do, what Fiore chose us to do here about contending with this. So again, with this case right here, again, knowing effective strikes. This is a huge part that comes down to this. When I come in with this right here, there's not a lot of time. If he grabs my elbow, I have a microsecond to make a decision. Because he's pulling me downward with this right here, I've got to stop this. Reaching across here, I can go up to what I talked about before with dealing with the one thing. However, also, I give him my elbow. In which case right here, he can push and turn me, and now I'm in real trouble, and I can't face off against him. So, again, because this person's controlling my arm with two hands, and he's got free motions already out there, this is where we start to look at a different guideway into what is necessary to cause that strike against him. So in here, I come in with the dagger, boom, he comes with this here, he grabs my elbow. What Fiore prescribes to us to do is grab the dagger itself, and now what I'm going to do is, because essentially we're locked up, he's on the outside of my body, he can still muscle me down if he wants to, so I've got to use the rest of my body, this is how I see it, rest of my body to drive forward and stick him in the bicep. From this position right here, I can do any manner of nasty thing. Stabbing this into the bicep head is going to cause structure pieces, and now I can work against him. Or my personal thoughts on this right here is, if you know any type of sword player at all, I grab this right here, this becomes my pommel, and I'm going to rip down his arm and keep stabbing at him. Okay? So, big piece about this is, when I come in with this shot, boom, I don't have a lot of time. If I'm fighting with this right here, that just secures me down. Every time I shake back and forth, I'm going to go further. So your decision-making process for this has got to be very fast. He's out of range from my eye. If I step, all he has to do is keep a cresting off to his side right here, and I can't hit him, and it's making it worse for me. So instead, it's a desperate situation. And like I said before about dagger fighting, I pop up in right here, and I'm going to drive in. My weight, he can try to resist me here, and again, this is all, remember, this is all theory, hypothetical. This is not actual fight. And that's why, again, we have to look at our options. We may find ourselves in this. So in this case right here, if he tries to resist me as I step into this, my whole weight, even that alone right there, I'm already starting to turn him over, and now I've got different places. We sink this in nice and neat right here, and now I have every portion that I want to grab on him and keep working against him, okay? So understand that when it comes down to this, it's a very nasty position. It's very, very, very nasty, okay? We're going to bring this a little bit closer here so once again we can kind of see, again, a little bit of the structure of it all. I know we're about not on camera, but we will be in a second here. Again, shot comes in, he covers this offline, he's grabbing this. I can't contend with this. Maybe I scoot off along right here, but then he walks right in, all he has to do is mesovolt into me, and now I'm broken down again. So again, instead of this, I grab the dagger, I choose to mesovolta into him. So I'm playing on this side, facing this way. I want to turn my body against him, so my body's facing this direction. And I can drag, I can hit any way that I need to with this all. Again, from this, stabbing this in, break that bicep head, wiggle it down, whatever you have to do, break the structure. Now I've got access to anything else that I may have to get him off of my arm. Now remember, in this case where the roles are reversed, rather than being the person that's assassinated or the one that's being attempted to be assassinated, we're now the assassin itself, or the attacker itself, or whatever. So it kind of makes you wonder a little bit about what Fiore is actually teaching in this context here. It could also very well be that as ambiguous as this is, it could be that maybe this person attacked me and I found a way to get my own dagger out, and now I'm the person that's fighting for my life. But again, it does boil the question right here: why would you be teaching a statesman these kind of things? Probably because you have your own knifeman. So there's a lot of context that when it comes down to this right here that we can kind of glean a little bit on it, especially if you understand the period of time that he's living in. But regardless of that, this right here is going to wrap up what we have here for this third counter that we have here in regards to First Master Dagger. And that's it. So you can see with that right there that there's, again, the consideration to grab a wrist versus grab the arm versus something. It all becomes kind of nebulous. And to reaffirm what I was talking about before about the awareness about what we have with an opponent. I said this to one of my a student and an elite instructor here literally last week, who was significantly shorter than me. And I said, One thing that happens about a smaller person is that they're going to have to work on the inside of somebody that's taller. If you stay on the outside of someone that's taller, it's gonna become problematic, which means that they have to step twice as fast. And in reality, that probably just means that their footwork is gonna be that much better for it. That's frustrating to face, but again, it boils down to what is your awareness of the situation. And again, like when I talk about with Vincent, the stuff that I can and can't do with him, that I can do with Connor and other people that I practice with, is it conveys that kind of thing of like how different everything is. Connor's is a young man who's strong, who's longer than me. He can reach faster than me, and he's got a step that's like he takes one step and it's 2 steps for me. So I have to play on the inside of him in order to do that. And that leads to why we may have so many different types of things when it comes down to the entanglement of a dagger fight. It's not just a one and done kind of concept. And that's a big part about when we talk about the awareness of the situation and how we're facing certain things and so on and so forth. Because if we're not necessarily facing, if we're facing everybody the same way every time, then the reality is at some point in time that's going to fail because structurally it's just not going to hold. And I don't think that that was lost on the Maestro. I think the Maestro understood very well. No, as big as you are or as young as you think, as strong as you think you are, there's always someone that's stronger, someone that's faster, and we have other techniques out there. Which leads me to another conversation when it comes down into, and I can't speak for everybody, but this is something that I have found, at least within my group that I'm working with, that has been kind of a place of like, relief, is that every technique is not going to work for you, okay? It's not. And, right now in my group, we're presently working on 6 Master Dagger type stuff and how we can get to different things right here and so on and so forth, and like how we can get to Abrazari concepts off of a certain type of a crossing. Facing off with one of my students who is larger than me, and I find myself to be quite a capable person. The military helped me out with that a lot, obviously. But even as capable as I am, as strong as I am, and as fast as I am, I couldn't perform some of these techniques against them. And at the end of that class there, I brought up the point that it's like, this is a case in point right here of why every technique is not for every situation. Just trying to pull the technique off against a big person that isn't meant for that, in my opinion, is a great way to lead to injury. There are better ways of handling certain situations here. And that honestly is going to be coming down to plug and play. Unfortunately, that is one spot right there that I do wish that Fiore had brought in there. It's like, this is better against a tall person, against a short person, against anything type of person. And I think that's one of the things where we have to kind of dig and see for ourselves what works in those situations, and then kind of develop our own doctrine of how that may or may not be working. Again, no impact, no idea as far as what the Maestro wanted to have for each individual technique. Or it could, maybe there's some type of cultural concept that you had to be a certain height to be a knight, which I highly doubt. But you get my point here. It's like, if every technique's supposed to always work, then that means everything's supposed to work here and everything's the same. And I don't think that was the case. And I don't think that was what Fiore was thinking either way. Anyway, with that being the case here, that's going to wrap up this video. Again, please leave a like, comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this right here. If you saw something in there that that was something that you have done before or you haven't done before, let me know in the comments below. Love to hear your thoughts and feedback. If you're new to the channel, please consider joining us. Again, trying to reach that 1,000 mark right here. I'd love to be able to climb higher in this right here and to share more of what I'm thinking on this to a larger source of the community. And that can't be done without viewers like you. And I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you being a part of this community to be able to do this. With that being the case here, that's going to wrap this up. And as always, everybody, please stay safe, train well, and fight on. I will see you all soon.